Hoping everyone is having a delightful morning. A warm welcome to HOWA's virtual Caravan class on Going Paperless. There will be a 30 minutes talk from our presenter, then 30 minutes for questions and answers. The chat will open up at 9:25 for you to submit your questions on the topic of going paperless. The class ends at 10, but the chat feature does remain open for an additional 15 minutes for interaction with the presenter and attendees. I'm excited and honored to introduce to you the amazing person who implemented programs for helping the homeless find a new way of life, and that assists individuals with achieving sustainable personal and economic self-sufficiency by focusing and providing safe and secure unconventional housing and an economic safety net through a nomad lifestyle. Her programs helps those most in need get back on their feet. She has been bringing the nomad community together to socialize in a safe space through virtual coffees, campfires, and connections, as also providing education and assistance to those interested in learning the nomad way of living. Please smile and help me welcome Suanne Carlson, the co-founder and executive director of Homes on Wheels Alliance. HOWA, thank you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. That was a wonderful introduction. One of the things that Alicia didn't tell you that I will tell you that's pertinent to this discussion about going paperless is that I've been a nomad since 2009, part-time. At that time, full-time for the last 3.5 years. Up until recently, I have been in a Prius. So it was, for space reasons, I definitely had to go paperless as much as possible. You'll see that I'm not in a Prius right now, or perhaps I'll just tell you I'm not. I am currently moving into a Chevy Express passenger van. So my space has gotten larger, but I don't expect to be any less of a minimalist in this new home. Mainly, I'm getting this so I can be more effective in working for HOWA. So let's talk about a couple of reasons to go paperless. I've already mentioned space because you just don't have that much space in a vehicle. It doesn't matter if you're in an RV or if you're in a car or if you are using a tent. But there are a couple of other reasons as well. For the ecology, it's just plain makes more sense not to have paper. You don't use as many trees, so it's a greener solution. And then finally, efficiency. You don't have to go and look for things anymore in a file drawer. You can share things much more easily with your colleagues or with your family. So it's much more efficient to have electronic papers instead of papers. That is, those are 3 reasons. So it's greener, it's more efficient, and it saves space. And for the purpose of our discussion, I'm going to focus mostly on the space-saving aspect of going paperless. So you notice the title is Going Paperless. It's not Gone Paperless. That's because it is an ever-continuing effort to be paperless. It is going paperless. And in fact, as we go on, you'll find out that legally, there are some documents that you just cannot go completely paperless on. So here's some examples of ways to remove paper from your life. For business and financial transactions, most businesses now, banks, any place that you're going to have a financial transaction will give you the option to go paperless. And sometimes they give you 3 possible options. Either you're going to go get things by mail, continue to get them by paper. You get things by email, so they come in a document, or you get things by text. I was just recently at a site that must have had 20 different options of types of notifications or documents that they would send you, and each of them gave those 3 options. And for me, I chose email on all of them. One of those 20 options, I must also receive something by mail. So legally, they must send some hard copy to me. So for that, I don't have an option of going paperless, but the 19 other things, I can go paperless. So that's what I do. The other way to go paperless is to pay your bills online. And we have several ways to do that. I'm going to talk about pushing and pulling. So primarily, when I pay my bills, I push the money to the vendor. So I go into my credit union and I say, send this money to this vendor on this date. Or I've also given my credit union, in some instances, access to my vendor accounts, so that not only do I get that bill by email, but my credit union also gets that bill, and I've told them to pay the bill in full every time. And that's what I actually do for my credit card. So when I get a credit card bill in the email, my credit union gets that credit card bill in the email, and then they pay it in full every month. The way that, so that's pushing money to the vendors. You can also, on many vendor sites, pull money from your bank or your credit union. And my phone plan is a good example of that. They, Verizon in this case, will go into my credit union, because I've given them permission to, and pull money from my credit union to pay my monthly bill. That's part of the requirement to get this particular plan that I have. So the more that you can do that electronically, and you are not getting that paper, the better. And for me, part of the efficiency of doing it electronically is that I don't have to pay attention. I've already given my credit union permission to pay every month, and I don't have to now go in and do that activity every month. I go in and check once a month at least to make sure things are still on the up and up. But it's just a very efficient and paperless way to go. Excuse me. The other thing that I wanted to note is that even when a vendor will not accept an electronic transfer of money. So a good example is my Prius is in storage right now. The place I have it in storage will only accept cash and checks. I can still do that from my side, paperless. I just tell my credit union, send a check to this address for this amount every month. So from my end, it's paperless, even though my vendor, in this case, the storage unit, gets a paper check. So these are strategies that you too can implement so that you are not having to get mail forwarded to you and then write checks and then mail those checks yourself. The other thing that I do to be as paperless as possible, yet still have tracking of where my money went, is I pay for everything possible using my credit card. I use my credit card to buy fast food. I use my credit card, for grocery shopping, to buy new tires for my rig. I use my credit card for everything. And this is a good way to track what you've spent, as well as have that record in case you need it later. So at one point in my life, I was itemizing, and I needed to itemize all my medical costs. I could then go through my credit card bill and find out where those medical costs, what those medical costs were, sum them up, have a record, and then submit it to the IRS as a deduction. These are the things that I do, and I know I haven't covered everything. So we're smarter together than we are individually. So I look forward when we do chat to hear what you are doing to make your financial transactions more paperless. Similarly, we're going to find out what I do to manage my legal documents. And then I hope that you'll share some things as well. So examples of legal documents would be my estate planning documents, like my will, my living will, power of attorney, all of those documents that have to do with managing my estate. It includes titles of for my vehicles. It includes birth certificates, my passport card, and things having to do with financial stocks and bonds, land ownership, mineral rights, anything having to do with that. In many cases here, we must keep a paper record. So for my birth certificate, for my passport, for the titles of my cars, or my vehicles, all of those require a paper copy. Just no way to get around that. Except I found one thing that I can do for my estate documents. Because at the time I was a Washington State resident when I drew those documents, I found that the county records office, the courthouse in King County in Washington, will retain those paper copies for me. So I do not have to carry them with me. So, and I don't know if every county does that. I just know that the county that I was in at the time does it, but it's something for you to look into. You know, they're a fairly significant stack of paper that I don't have to carry now, and that's a good thing. And somebody else is now managing that paper, and of course, my family, the executor of my estate, those kinds of things, those types of people know that that's where my estate records are. Some people, I don't do this, but some people I know store it in a safe deposit box. These kinds of records. I have not chosen to do that because I want to be able to get to my passport or my birth certificate without having to drive back to wherever my safe deposit box is. But that is an option. It's not that you don't have the paper, it's just that you're not carrying it with you in your vehicle. Some people I know keep their important papers like this with trusted family or friends. What I do is I keep it in a fire-resistant safe box in my vehicle. And I'll show you that later. Right now, I just want to go over the tips and tricks, and then I'll kind of do a show and tell of the stuff that I carry and have that to manage my paper or to become more paperless. You can store things electronically in addition to having paper, and I would highly recommend that you do this, not just with paper, but with your plastic too. So take copies scan copies of your credit cards, scan copies of your driver's license, anything that has legal ramifications to it. Scan copies of it and keep an electronic copy in addition to the physical copy. So that could be done in a PDF, where you just print to a PDF. You can scan it, or you can take a photo of it. When I was in a Sticks and Bricks, I had access to a scanner. So I scanned my paper. the quality of the copy is better than what I do now, which is I just take a photo of my paper. It still has the legal weight of a scan copy, but it just doesn't look as pretty. And I keep it on the device that I took the picture on, and then I also keep it on the cloud. When you're paperless, the cloud is very important. And for those that don't know, what the cloud is, when we're talking about computer talk, it is a computer, a whole lot of computers called servers that are in locations called server farms. And they're literally all over the world. They have redundancy, and that is that they're backed up regularly, they're secure. So when we talk about the cloud, that's what we're talking about. It's a server, a computer somewhere that is backed up regularly. And we have lots of cloud services that we can use. The first cloud service that I ever used when I first heard about it was the Amazon Drive. So I have a little bit on the Amazon Drive. This is from many years ago now. Primarily, I use a Microsoft OneDrive now, but I also use Google Drive because my photos are all on the Google Drive. And I also use Dropbox because I have friends that use Dropbox, and that's how we often share media. So those are 4 examples of cloud services: OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, and Amazon Drive. There's lots more. Some of them are free, some of them are free for a time, or some are free for a little bit, and then the cost goes up. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not an expert on that, but I do highly recommend, that if you go paperless, that you back up everything that's important to you, or important legally, to the cloud. Okay, the other thing that I do, because I want emergency responders or family to have access to my important documents, my important information. So my estate documents, my will, my living will, what medications I'm on, any medical conditions I happen to have at the time, those kinds of things. If I become unconscious, I want them to know that. And I want them to know that without having to carry paper. So how do I do it? Ever since I've been a nomad, I have worn a necklace around my neck, and I've had 2 things on it. One is to get into my rig a different way in case I lock myself out or I lose my keys. And the other is a USB drive. And so this USB drive is what I'm talking about. It is, let's see if I can show it to you. Yeah, just a USB drive. It doesn't have, I can't even remember how much space it has on it, but enough space to have PDF copies of my estate documents and text documents of my medical record, pertinent medical information, medications I'm taking, those kinds of things. Where to find where to find my lockbox, my safe in my rig at the time. So I would recommend that you do that. I know a lot of people will do 3x5 cards and use a magnet and put it someplace obvious in their vehicle, but this is around on my person and at all times. So something for you to consider. Okay, another area to become paperless is mementos, and in particular, photographs. So I was kind of the family historian before I moved out of my sticks and bricks. So when people wanted to get rid of their photos, they gave them to me. I had boxes. thousands, literally thousands of photos. And I went through them all before I became a full-timer. I scanned the ones that were important to me. Again, probably maybe close to 1,000. Not all, certainly not all of them, not even the majority of them did I scan, but I did go through them all. And the older ones, the pictures of ancestors, I gave to family who wanted them. So I guess the point here is that I scan them. And if you have a lot of photos like I did, I recommend a scanner that you can just put one in, scan it, take it out, put another in, scan it, take it out. I started with one of those that you just feed one at a time, and it was so slow. I would probably still be doing it. So definitely get a good scanner. I don't have a scanner with me now, but at the time, that's what I did. And the nice thing about having the scanned photos on the cloud with a phone that accesses the scanned photos, I look at especially my ancestors' photos, more now than I ever have in my entire life, because they're so accessible. I don't have to go digging through boxes to find them, or go down into a dark basement to dig through boxes. So that is something that I would recommend that you do. It was hard to throw them away. It was hard. Those that I didn't give away, I did throw away, and that was hard. But there's just no way I could have carried them now. And I actually do, like I said, I do enjoy them more now. All right. The other thing that I've done is I joined Ancestry.com and did some research in terms of developing or finding out my tree, my family tree. And you can scan documents and append them there, and then they're available to others who are also in some way, shape, or form related to you. Okay. So it all sounds like really nice and neat and easy, and it's not. It's continuous. The struggle is real to get rid of paper, because it's always, always, always coming back into my life. So let me share with you a couple of other things before I show you a bit of my show and tell. So we've been talking about going paperless in ways that are obvious. So I want to talk about going paperless in one way that's not so obvious, and that is toilet paper. So one of the things that I discovered, and actually this was before the great TP issue with the coronavirus, is that there is a significant portion of the world population that don't use toilet paper, but they use a wash rag. And so for one thing for you to consider, again, do what feels comfortable, is to use a wash rag for number one. And basically, I was using a wash rag every day anyway for cleaning myself. And so I just save it and use it for the rest of the day instead of toilet paper. And then the next day I have another clean wash rag, and so on and so forth. So that is probably not what you were thinking of about going paperless, but I just thought I'd throw that in for you to consider. And then another strategy to go paperless is books. So instead of having physically a paperback book or a hardbound book, go to the library and download Audible books, or download electronic books, or buy Kindles. Hi, Alicia.
Miss Suanne, sorry to interrupt. You have 5 minutes left for your presentation, and the chat is now open for attendees to send questions on the topic of going paperless.
Okay, thank you. I'll look forward to your questions, and not just your questions, but your own suggestions. So, I told you I have a safe box, and I'm going to hold this up for you. So this is my safe box. You'll notice there's a strap around it, and that's because I had to break into it. It was given to me with only one key, and I lost the key. And so just recently I had to break into it, and I plan to get another box that is both waterproof and fireproof. But this one, you can see, is almost big enough inside to hold an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And I have in here all those documents that I have to have because they're paper. Primarily legal documents, titles, those kinds of things. And because there's enough room, I also keep checkbooks in there. And I'll probably be putting some other stuff in there. To tell on myself, in preparation for this, I looked through all my containers that have paper in them, and I found that I had lots of checkbooks. I have, I think, 3 different checking accounts. But I never write checks anymore because I do everything paperlessly. So here are all the checkbooks that I'm going to get rid of. So the struggle is real. It's a constant struggle. It's a constant work in progress. So that is, just thought I would tell on myself what I thought I needed when I came out 3.5 years ago is definitely not what I needed. I don't need all those checkboxes. I probably don't even need the ones that I have, but I'll keep them. Then just because it's paper, I thought I would let you know that I also have office supplies in basically a laptop bag. And if you've ever seen me around, and I'll tell you my notes for this webinar is on a little notebook. I'm pretty much always carrying around a notebook. I put people's contact information in there, a to-do list, notes for a speaking engagement, and I have decided that it's probably important, maybe even for the history of HOWA, to continue to retain those. And so this bag here has those notebooks from the beginning of HOWA, and that's where I just keep them. I may end up getting rid of it, but it just kind of seems important. I've had to go back in others to find out timeline stuff, so we'll see. And then when I get rid of paper, sometimes it has personal information on it. And so I put that in a bag, in a plastic bag, and I just save it until I have enough that I could burn it, basically. And so that's what I do. Just kind of what my own little trick is if I read something and I don't need to keep it, but it has personal information on it, I'll take it and I'll actually tear it part way, just to let me know that I've actually reviewed it. And so now that I have all those checkbooks, they get to be destroyed too. And they'll go into this plastic bag to be destroyed, hopefully sooner rather than later, now that it's pretty big. And then this is my to-do bag. So this is all the paper that I've looked at once, but I need to do something more with it. So, for example, I have some I was recently given some ancestry information from family. And so I want to look through it, I want to scan it, and then I'll throw it away. My title to the van is in here. It needs to be put into my safe. So those are my the way I organize and get rid of paper in my life right now, and some ideas for you to consider. And I bet we have some questions, Alicia.
We do, Suanne, quite many. So Jim says, very informative webinar. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Alma said, thank you for some great ideas, Suanne. I'm going to use many of them. Your first question comes to us from Jim. What do you do about regular mail delivery?
Okay, sure. I use a mail service called Mail Messages and More out of Pahrump, Nevada. And they are truly an ally of Homes on Wheels Alliance. And so that's why I kind of want to give them a little plug here. And they will hold my mail until I ask them to send it. Or if I expect something there, I'll call them and say, has this arrived yet? And if they say yes, then they will scan it for me. So all of a sudden now this paper has become electronic and I'm now paperless. And those are, I only ask them to do that. Of course, there's always a cost associated with their services, but I only ask them to do that for things that I must have right away. I rarely do that for personal things, but sometimes for HOWA paperwork that needs to have a fast return time, we'll ask them to do that more often than not.
Wonderful. And Lisa says, can you please repeat that part about the country record storage statement you made versus safe deposit boxes, safety deposit boxes?
Can you reread that, please?
Can you please repeat that part about the county record storage statement you made versus safe deposit boxes?
Sure. In the county that I was in, which was King County, Washington, in Washington State, the recorder's office at the courthouse provides a service, and I believe there was a fee associated with it. And they will hold my estate documents, my will, for me. And then those that I've given permission to access it, like my executor and various family, then they can access my will at the recorder's office at the King County Courthouse. And that is one possible solution. Another possible solution to not physically having your estate documents is to put them in a safe deposit box at a bank or a vendor of your choice.
Wonderful. Mark said, I used to use a hard fire box, but opted to use a soft fire proof bag. It came with a small envelope too, and I store a backup hard drive in that.
What a good idea. Good.
Yeah.
Good idea, Mark. I'm going to have to look into that. I'm all into soft-sided containers. I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Dan says, why do you choose Microsoft as your iCloud storage? Thank you for your
Yeah, primarily because I use Microsoft products 365, and it comes with storage associated with that. So it is not an additional cost to me.
Okay, and Deidre says, hi, Suanne. Thank you for your presentation. What do you think of using mail services that scan or send? Does that help?
Yes, yeah, very definitely. I believe there are mail services that's all they do. They don't ever actually forward the physical mail to you, but they scan everything on your behalf. And of course, because it's more labor intensive, there's going to be a higher cost. And sure, I think that's a great idea.
Wonderful. So Lisa says, I learned a trick about soaking sensitive papers in leftover water. That was how I destroyed them versus shredding.
Oh, okay.
And Karen's has a suggestion rather than a question, especially for those with allergies to medications or urgent medical information. Medic Alert will keep on file for your advanced directives, living wills, health insurance info, emergency contacts, etc. I also wear a necklace everywhere, but it's a Medic Alert necklace. They do charge a yearly subscription fee for keeping your records, currently at $50 per year.
Great idea. Great idea.
Scott said, thank you, Suanne, for the awesome presentation. This is something that I started about 5 years ago when I became a minimalist. Scanning docs, saving them on an external drive, and recycling the documents has been an excellent method of going paperless. I do take a Sharpie to my personal info before I recycle. The digital age is remarkable.
You're very careful. That's good. Yeah, it's just one more way to make sure that your personal information doesn't get out there. Very good.
And Lisa asked, without giving away your secret space, how can you hide this box without it being obvious?
Well, so one of the things that when we live in a small space, we tend to layer our things. So right now I'm looking at my kitchen area, and I have a box of food layered below with a box of open containers layered above. So because we layer, typically the things that we use less get on the bottom, and the things that we use more get on the top. I always put the box, my lock box, at the very bottom. And if you want to get real careful about it, you can actually get a cable and a lock, and lock the lock box to some immovable object in your vehicle. So that's my basic strategy.
Right. And John says, hi, do you carry a printer or scanner? Thank you for your wonderful topic and information.
A printer or scanner?
Printer or scanner.
I do not. I do not. Since I've been in Nomad and in the Prius, I just didn't have room for a printer or a scanner. And I would go, and this is how I've done HOWA business. I go to the library and I scan things and I print them and I make copies at the library. I have some things in my to-do bag that I showed you earlier that would be too costly to do at a library. And so for that, I've had friends offer access to their printer and scanner. Or now that I'm in a van, maybe I'll figure out how to have enough room for a printer and scanner myself. But right now I don't.
Wonderful. Val says, thank you bunches for info on passports, social security cards, etc. Suanne. I've had a safe before in sticks and bricks, so I'll get another one. I didn't know there was a fire and waterproof ones.
You're right. I'm going to go look up that bag that I think Mark was suggesting, and I already was planning on putting links to the fire and waterproof one on the description, on the YouTube description that will be there when this gets published on YouTube. So if you want, you can go ahead and go there, and it goes to HOWA's affiliate account. So we make a few cents on those.
Speaking of Mark's idea, Josie said, I think Mark's idea is brilliant.
Yes,
yes. Thanks so much for some good ideas. Okay. Shannon says, perhaps I missed it, but would you be able to give an estimate of the cost for a mail forwarder service, and also the cost to have them scan and email a document to me?
I don't have those, but I can tell you if you look up mail messages and more in Pahrump, Nevada, um, they can give you those costs. They're gosh, there's like a one-time cost, and then you have money in the bank to pay for postage and scanning and things like that, and then they give you an invoice every month to say where you are in your balance. But I don't have those in my mind. So better to go to the business that you want to be your mail forwarder than me try to estimate it.
Right.
Sorry.
Lisa would like to know, is a credit union easier for paperless than a bank?
No, I don't think so. Um, I have a credit union from when I used to work in education in Washington State. And just because I have always had them, I kept them, even though I'm a nomad. But HOWA uses a conventional bank, and they have the same kind of services that a credit union does. So far, I haven't really noticed any difference.
And Kathy says, hi there, and thank you for your tips and tricks on going paperless. I worry that if my only records are online and the internet goes down from a fire or earthquake, etc., I won't have access. I might suggest having a hard copy of your insurance and a copy of your major bills, etc., so you can still see a recent copy to approximate a balance.
Right. So there's kind of like 3 levels of access. One is the piece of paper, physical. The other is what is on your device, physically on your device or physically on a hard drive that's with you. And then the third level is on the cloud, where if the internet goes down, you do lose access to that. So for those kinds of documents that I don't legally have to have a physical hard copy of, but I want to have access to, I keep on a hard drive on my physical devices so that it's not just on the cloud, but it's local to my computer, basically.
And she continues, I actually worry most about losing my passwords and don't want to trust the online password managers. Do you have an opinion on securing your passwords? Thanks again.
This is a sore point for me right now. My passport expired and I sent it in for renewal just before the COVID virus hit.
Sorry, Suanne, your passwords. Do you have
password? Oh, I thought you said passport. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. But let me finish because on the passport, just so that in case other people are similar to me, I still haven't gotten my passport renewed. So hopefully before I get back down south and can go into Mexico, I'll get that passport. So password managers. I'm sorry, can you reread that for me so I can now?
Do you have an opinion on securing your passwords?
Yeah. What I do, because I think everybody now probably has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sites they go to that they need credentials for. I use a password manager called RoboForm, and I've been using it probably for decades now. Started using it when it was free, and now I pay for it. They've developed and developed and developed, and I'm happy with it. It itself has credentials, so you have to remember the main password to get into the password manager, but I could not manage my passwords without it. And the thing I like about it is I use it on my laptop, and then I have access to it as the same passwords through the same manager on my phone. I do a lot of work, both personal and HOWA, on my phone. So that's an important feature for me.
Wonderful. For small amounts of scanning, the App Scanner Pro is very good, Jerry says, Jerry. So Val says, for those saving an external drive, I recently learned that solid state hard drive stands up better to all the bouncing around to avoid corrupting the information stored on an external drive.
Yes, good, really, really good point. Yeah.
And Kathy says, there is also something called a Faraday bag that is supposed to be a practically indestructible, but I haven't researched it yet. I think it's used to prepare, but they do come in more sizes than the fire safe bags I've seen so far. Sorry, I don't have more info.
So I'm guessing a Faraday bag would protect from some sort of electrical pulse that weapon that might happen. I can't remember the EM something that I guess is a real thing that can happen.
Okay. And Cami says, when you take a picture of a document with your phone, doing it in some app like Evernote will stop at the edge and turn the photo into a crisp, clean document. Also stores in the cloud.
Good.
Oh, we have a question here. How do Suanne safely destroy her sensitive documents?
Okay.
Safely
let me show you. I'm going to share my screen here. So this is a charcoal starter that works great for burning pieces of paper. Not too long ago, the HOWA staff sat around, and myself and several other people brought over our documents that had personal information in it, and we just spent some time and fed the fire in, this was Phyllis's charcoal chimney. So this is how I'm doing it now as a nomad. Before I was a nomad, and I would find once a year in my area, there would be free shredding. So I would take my box of personal documents or documents with personal information that I didn't want to keep and would take it for shredding. Again, I will I will have that on the description of the YouTube channel video of this presentation, in case you want to take a look at that.
Okay, and can you go paperless at work also?
Yeah, yes. We do as much paperless as possible. I'm in the enviable situation of when I get paper for HOWA, I give it to Phyllis and she gets to deal with it. And I do know she spends considerable time scanning. And for some of our documents, like our articles of incorporation and IRS tax documents and those kinds of things, we have to keep paper copies, but we're trying to go paperless as much as possible in HOWA.
Okay. And another question, do you think going paperless helps the environment and decrease waste?
I think so. I can't speak for, well, yeah, I can. So the bank is no longer sending me statements where I have some money invested. They're not sending me the portfolios that can get ridiculously thick. I'm not printing documents to send. Oh, that's another thing I haven't even talked about. At least for HOWA, we do our contracts, memorandums of agreement, all electronically. Electronic signatures are as legally binding as a physical signature. So we don't print paper, which is a good thing because we're nomads. We're sometimes not together. We're apart.
Okay, and Shannon asked, have you ever made homemade paper from all your destroyed documents?
No, but I had a really good friend once that would make paper things. It was art. It was really beautiful stuff. Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't make the cut to come with me on the as a nomad, but yeah, she did really, really nice work. But
And
but
Deidre
there you go.
wants
That's a great recycles option.
right. Deidre wants to know, how long does an individual need to keep tax documents?
I don't know. Not, I can tell you what I do. I keep them for 7 years. And electronically now, I have them probably back a couple decades, but when I was keeping paper, I would keep them 7 years. I'm not a lawyer. You need to verify that for yourself, please.
Okay, Amir says, here in South California, some parks have barbecues, another option for burning papers with personal
Yeah,
information.
yeah, great idea. Makes great kindling. Great way to get the fire started.
And Suzanne has a suggestion. She said there's an app called Tiny Scanner for your phone that provides legal document status. Another app called M-Secure is great for managing passwords.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Another question for you. Have you ever tried a portable scanner that is about 16 inches by 4 inches by 16 by 4 inches?
I have tried a portable scanner that was about 7 inches by 2 inches, and it was made for photographs, is what it was for. And it was just too slow for me. And I suspect it uses the same technology that something that would scan a document would use. You know, if I had lots of time, I would do that. Unfortunately, my time is pretty much of a premium right now, so I end up saving it until I can do a lot quickly.
And Shannon asked, do you know anyone who makes paper bricks to cook with from their documents that need to be destroyed?
I don't. I have heard people rolling paper. I not personally, I don't know them, but I've heard of that technique. So that could be a possibility.
Okay. And Dan says, I've been told I need a safety deposit box for critical papers. Do you know if there's such a thing as a remote access safety deposit box, or someone traveling can somehow have items sent?
I don't know of a service that does that. That's a really good question. You certainly could have a safe deposit box where a trusted family member or friend was, and then they could go in and scan things for you. But that, I don't know of a service. It wouldn't surprise me that if there is one out there, but I don't know of it personally.
Right. And the suggestion is that the length of time to retain documents can be found on Google regarding the tax
There
documents.
you go.
And Mira says tax documents, 7 years is what is recommended most. Almost also heard 10 years, but not nearly as often. Okay, Kathy says, just wanted to mention that you don't have to own a Kindle to read Kindle books available from Amazon. I
Yes.
read on tablet.
Yes.
Okay, and Jim has some information. IRS can look back 20 years, but only prosecute for 7 years. So it may be a good idea to keep documents for 20 years. And a question for you from Val. What's the scanner that Suanne actually found fast enough?
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember the maker. It was a major brand name. It was one of those devices that you could use as a scanner, as a printer, or as a fax machine. And it was fairly large. It had to be about 18 inches by 30 by 15 high, something like that. So way, way too big for a vehicle, at least any vehicle that I've been in. But I think any scanner that has a flat bed on it, where you lift up the cover, is the kind that I have found faster than those that you actually feed them through.
Right. And Shannon says rolling paper is a great idea too. Thanks for the tips. And Suanne, you have 5 minutes left for taking questions. So for those of you who have additional questions on going paperless for Suanne, please submit them now. And another question is regarding tax documents, can you save them online exclusively, or do you need to keep the paper copies as well?
I save them online exclusively. I don't even have a piece of paper anymore when I file my taxes. I have used online programs to file Tax Act for a long time, and now I'm using Credit Karma to file my taxes. And I never touch a piece of paper other than the W-2s and things like that I get in the mail. Yeah, everything is electronic.
Okay, and a lot of tax question for you today, Suanne. Someone would like to know if when you file your taxes, does the company you file would keep those tax documents online for you?
Yes, I mean, I don't know that they keep a copy that's considered legal by IRS standards. I keep a PDF of the actual forms that get filed to the IRS, but I do know they keep records because when I file this next year, they can pull that information from the previous year if I want them to. So, they'll use my old address, those kinds of things.
Okay. And I have a question for you, Suanne. When starting your going paperless process, where do you suggest that I begin? Personal documents, photos, where do you suggest I begin to take that first baby step?
Yeah, well, I can tell you where I began, and that is by doing all my business transactions online. Even before I became a nomad, I did most everything online. I paid bills, I got notifications, all via email. So I can tell you that that's what I did. I don't know that that's better than dealing with mementos or not, first or not. I just know that dealing with mementos was hard for me because it meant getting rid of the physical pieces of photos and so I tend to wait to do those things that feel uncomfortable. And it was not the most comfortable thing for me to do. So
Okay.
maybe that's the basic, do baby steps and do the first thing in front of you first, the thing that's easiest.
Wonderful. Thank you, Suanne. Amira says, identity theft expert Frank Abagnale book are worth reading when considering ways to secure important documents safely. Can also watch his presentation on YouTube.
Can you give that name again?
It's Frank Abag. I won't try the last name. It's Abagnale.
Okay.
Agnale. Abagnales.
Okay. Okay. Good resource.
Right. So, okay, she's doing the pronunciation is Abgag. It's not, no. Abgadnail. Abgalnail. Abgalnail. Thank you for that, Amira. Okay. So we have 1 minute. Suanne, do you want to finalize your thoughts and conclusion to going paperless?
Yeah, I think I'll just kind of repeat. It's an ongoing process. It's a never-ending process. Take baby steps. Do what you can. And for those of you that are nomads now, I hope you've gotten some good ideas about how to go more paperless. And for those that are preparing for this lifestyle, let me be your cheerleader. go, go, go.
Okay, so you're getting many compliments, Suanne, but I want to thank you so very much for your all-inclusive presentation on going paperless. And thank you very much for attending HOWA's virtual class on going paperless. Do enjoy your weekend. And Suanne, you have many more compliments coming through.